All right, we're back with more Heat in the Street. With me, I've got John Anderson, partner at Greenbriar Equity Group. John, we're right out of our panel of the state of investment in the big and bulky final mile space. What was one thing that came out of that panel that really stuck out to you?
I think when I think of big and bulky, and we've had a number of investments in that space, customer concentration, what kinds of customers you've got, how many you've got, how big are they? How do you get to a balance point where their strength in terms of the volume they can offer you is balanced by your ability to price it correctly and deal with them they're big, tough, demanding customers. So that was a theme I kind of felt going through that session that I think is really important for companies in this space.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job of threading that needle. There's a lot of nuance. Just because you have customer concentration doesn't mean that it's not investable.
Correct.
It means that we got to find out. So could you unpack that just a little bit more?
Sure. When we look at a company, one of the things I think most private equity investors look at is how concentrated is that customer base, because we're worried about risk. We have a very finite time we're going to own a company. And if during that period you have a customer that dominates your economics and you lose them, you can survive and you may come back, but it may be very awkward for your exit. So you like a mix of customers in there. In this space, as I said, there is concentration. You end up with some very big customers. We don't shy away from that immediately or automatically. We're very willing to invest in companies that have customer concentration. We just need to understand, how are you balancing against their power as a customer with your power as a supplier? But when that feels good, we'll take a customer on with concentration and we'll then try to grow out of that concentration.
I love that. Let me transition to what was one of the biggest headlines of 2026 M&A, which was Greenbrier's purchase of AIT Worldwide, one of the largest private acquisitions of a freight forwarder in history. This is, a multi-billion-dollar company. Why? What does that signal about what's different in this 2026 M&A market?
Sure. For us, it's just kind of a natural progression. As you know, we've owned a number of companies in freight forwarding. We love the space. We started smaller and we've grown larger. And this is our largest freight forwarding acquisition. I think in terms of general message you might get from it is that the combination of their strong domestic focus on freight forwarding, the big and bulky, and the kind of home delivery and ground transportation market in the U.S., coupled with a very big and powerful international freight forwarding market where they are the leader in a number of segments, that's what appealed to us. We like international businesses. We like the domestic business that they've got. We believe they grew a lot and did a really good job with their previous owner who we bought from. And we're just delighted with the acquisition.
I love it. And as I said, tremendous momentum in this space. And I think it points to that. Last question. You had some great advice for sellers as they prepare to one day, potentially exit or transition ownership of their business. Can you share some of that advice on how people need to get prepared in advance of a potential transfer of ownership?
Sure. I think one of my themes is prepare early. Find out what good looks like to a buyer, good in terms of preparation, your ability to pitch the company. Define for yourself early enough so you don't have to scramble at the last minute and look like you're making it up. Define for yourself, what are your strengths, what differentiates you, and what should a buyer be willing to, as most sellers are really interested in, pay a premium for. Right. And that's some advice I can give a buyer. The successful sellers I've seen are ones who you walk in and you can tell these are people that are prepared and have spent literally years figuring out their story, their differentiation, and their strengths. That is very credible to a buyer like us.
Well, listen, thanks for sharing your wisdom. That's going to do it for us for Heat in the Street. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mitchell.